you folks, and welcome to Kelly's Chronicles, my channel where I sit down with people who are living everyday, normal lives and listen to their extraordinary stories hidden behind normal, quiet existences. Because here we believe that those lives are the most important and need to be acknowledged, heard, and celebrated as to not be forgotten by the passage of time. Hope all of you out there had a wonderful week. We had a pretty good week here. The springtime weather has come upon us. It's nice and warm out here, about 60 degrees, and the birds are eating off my little bird feeders, and we're excited for that. Down here in the South, spring starts early. So we had a pretty good week, just getting some things done and spending time with family. How was your week, Dad? What were you up to?
Oh, it was a very good week. I didn't fall off any ladders or
Good.
end up in an emergency room or anything. So
Good.
I did get in a cat fight. I don't know if we went over that last week or not.
You did, but how
But
are injuries healing up? Are you doing a little bit better?
I still got where the cat bit me in two places, and the one of them's really not healing very well. I can feel like a lump in there. I might have a little bone infection or something. Anyway,
You're gonna go to the hospital?
it's pretty. I can make a fist again with my left hand, and that was impossible a week ago. So I've been healing, and I've been doing a lot of work. We got the gutter up on the back deck, which is essential. Because if there's no gutter, it just drips down onto the handrail. We don't like that. So
Yeah.
anyway, we got that going on. Yeah, it's been a good week of work, and looking forward to coming down to Alabama. We got our plane tickets all set up, and we're gonna get out of this dadgum cold Idaho and go to Alabama.
That's right. I bought them a ticket kind of prematurely. We had thought that we got this building, and I was like, "Come help us," because Dad's, of course, a very talented carpenter, and I spent 20 years working with him in carpentry, working on houses and whatnot. So, and Mom is also very talented with working on homes. She's been working with Dad, flipping homes and doing things like that, painting. She's a very talented painter. So I was like, "You guys come down here and help." Well, we bought the ticket, and then the building fell.
That's right. We're gonna come down. We're gonna come down, and if we can't help, we're just gonna be in your hair. We're gonna be hanging around.
I'm
and
okay with that.
asking stupid questions like, "What's that over?"
What's that yonder? You work on your southern?
That's right. That's right.
Because
Grits and gravy. I'm gonna go down there and have me some grits and gravy
that's right.
and biscuits.
That's
That's
right.
right.
Well, my kin down here, so my husband's sister and her husband, and of course my stepson, they're all down here. And the fun thing to do while we're sitting around just laughing, carrying on, is to make fun of how I talk. Because I talk weird, I guess. I have an interesting accent. And I say things like aluminum foil and paprika really weird, and they make fun of me. They make fun of me constantly. So we sit around, we're like, say this. And so Kentucky side will say that. And then here's Kelly with her odd accent from two parents that were raised in two different places and growing up in very different regions across this country. So I have a very interesting accent apparently. So I'll say, go ahead and say this, and then they'll say it, and then they'll say, okay, well, you say that, and then we'll see the differences. Quite hilarious, actually. So I get picked on.
Yeah,
I don't care.
You're easily entertained, I guess. You can sit around. Hey, say something. Oh, that's really funny. Oh, let's watch a movie.
That's about right. That's about right. Especially
okay.
So,
oh, by the way, do you like my shirt? It's not a Hawaiian shirt. It's a camo shirt, and I thought it would look pretty good on camera.
It does look pretty good on camera. I can't even.
Okay. Ooh.
Where'd
just
you go?
A floating head, huh? floating head, can't see anything.
That's
Yeah.
right. Where's your body? Blend in.
Yeah. Okay, we're gonna, I think in the previews of what we're gonna go over tonight, I was gonna talk about, uh, cars
Yes.
and
We were
racing,
gonna talk about
and
Arkansas, the Springdale
yeah,
Nightlife. We
yeah,
kinda so your dad had bought a farm in Springdale. You guys had built a well, hit water, cleaning it up a little bit, and you
yep,
had started high school at the Springdale High School. So, growing up, you had told a couple of different stories about the Springdale nightlife. And when you're in a tiny little town and you're bored, you hang out at the local, you know,
drive-in.
drive-ins, food and movies, and
Yeah,
you hang out in your cars. That's
yep.
about it. So,
That was a car culture. Of course, all of America had a car culture, and
yeah.
Arkansas was no exception. Lots of hot rods and lots of guys. They would cruise the local. There were two drive-ins that
Okay.
in Springdale that they would cruise. They weren't both in. They were in. One was in Rogers, and one was
Okay.
in Springdale. One in Springdale was the AQ drive-in, and it was a down in a, like, you come out of Springdale and you went down in a hole. You dropped probably 200 feet down into this lower road, and over on the south side of the road was the AQ drive-in, and it was a pretty nice drive-in. Go down there and cruise around that, and then when you got tired of doing that, you go jump in your car, start your engine, head for Rogers, and they had the Jan Lynn drive-in, which is on the
Oh,
outskirts of Rogers, and it's still there. Now the AQ drive-in it's got pretty much gone, but the Jan Lynn drive-in, it's not a drive-in anymore. It's a daycare center, but the building is still
oh,
there, and paved at a roundabout there that you'd go around and drive all the way around it. And one night we were out cruising, and we said, "Let's go to Jan Lynn." So we went to Jan Lynn, and bunch of cars there, bunch of locals, and we pulled in next to this 50 Ford, 1950 Ford,
okay.
and the guy was just in there with his girlfriend, and they were getting some sodas or something or a hamburger, and then he the car hop came and got, because back then there was a tray. You get a tray clipped on your side window, on the usually the driver's side window, because he's paying, and you'd have all your food and your drinks on that tray, and
Mhm.
then when you were done, the car hop would come around and pick up the tray and take it back inside. Well,
Wow.
he,
Okay.
he car hop came around, picked up the tray, and he started his engine. Whoa! I don't know what he had in that thing, but it was freaking loud. I
Yeah.
mean, ear hurting loud, blasting, and he started to back out, and he put the clutch in and revved that engine, and there was a on the Janlin had a big plate glass window on pretty much the whole length of the restaurant itself, and
Wow.
where the car hops would come out,
Yeah.
and this when he revved that engine, it shattered the window. I couldn't believe it. It just, and this
I
is a
bet
big
that
piece of
owner was
plate glass.
pissed.
This was a huge, like, 3 by 6 piece of plate glass, and it
Yeah.
blew that thing out, and I went, "Oh, I don't wanna be racing this guy. He's crazy," you know?
Man.
And he took off. He didn't sit around and say, "Well, I'll take care of that." No, he just left,
He's
and
like,
the next day,
"Oh."
they had a piece of plywood up there, so, yeah, it was amazing how loud those cars can get, these basically dragsters, what they were,
That's what I was gonna
and
say.
it's I don't know, some incredible engine in there, I don't know what it was,
Something
and
crazy.
Huh?
I mean, was it like fancy car on the outside or was it just
No, it was not. It was a sleeper. What they call a sleeper. It didn't look fast at all. It just looked like another 50 Ford. And I don't think he had a flathead, which is the standard engine, was a flathead 6-cylinder, a flathead V8. I don't think he had a flathead. I think he had something else, like some big old 400 cubic inch racing engine or something. But it was
Jeez.
straight pipes, right, coming right off the engine. No mufflers there.
No.
Yeah, and we would also, another place we would cruise was the bowling alley in Springdale.
The
There was
spring
a pretty
alley.
nice bowling alley. I think it had about 15 or 20 lanes,
It's still
and
there.
nice snack bar, and people like just go there and hang out. Maybe they would bowl and maybe not. We would go to the bowling alley, hang out, and a lot of drag races were initiated at the bowling alley because guys would come in there from Tulsa and even from Little Rock and Fort Smith,
Oh,
Joplin would all come. They would come to this. They would go to Springdale, and it was well known. If you wanted to have a drag race, you go to the bowling alley, and then everybody
why
would just kind of congregate there.
why
And
was that?
then
Was
they
there
would,
like a strip that they could go race at, or
oh
did they
yeah,
just go racing down
oh yeah,
70? Like,
there was a stretch of road outside of Springdale. And
ah,
I think it went to the river. I think it went down to the White River, and it was about 2 miles long it was straight, and there was no stop sign, no nothing, just this big, long stretch of straight road. And there weren't very many people out on a Saturday night. It was pretty
right.
deserted because it didn't go anywhere.
Yeah.
It went down to the river, and I don't know where it went from there, but that's where everybody would go out there. And they had this one guy that came in with a Corvette from Tulsa,
Mm.
and he got a few guys interested in dragging. Yeah, the Corvette. Yeah, well, I got a big Ford. Blah blah. They would go out to this straight stretch of road, and they would race for a quarter mile. They even had a guy that would start him and had another guy on the other end of the road, and he's sitting on alongside the road in his car. And if there was somebody coming, he'd flash his headlights, and that would stop. Now, if the guy was going the same way as the tractors, they wouldn't do anything, just let him go through. But if somebody coming from the opposite direction, they would flash the headlights, and the race would be postponed.
Yeah.
Anyway, this Corvette came from Tulsa, and he was killing everybody. I mean, nobody could beat this guy.
Yeah.
And so I had a '56 Ford police interceptor, and it was a real sleeper. I mean, it had like 4 different colored wheels. And it had a fender that had been replaced in a different color. It was a
Oh,
nasty,
no.
ugly 56, but it had a giant freaking engine in it with
Yeah.
a big old 4-barrel carburetor on it and a
Wow.
special intake manifold. It was an Endelbrock manifold and a big old Holly carburetor sitting on it. And then this guy's beating everyone. I said, "Well, what about me? Would you like to race me?" And he said, "What do you got?" And I said, "I got an old Ford." I said, "I'd just like to blow the carbon out of it, get it." Yeah.
Did
He said,
really go.
"Okay." He said, "Now, what do you want to go for?" And I said, $20." Back then it was back in the '60s, so $20 is like $100 now, so it's a pretty substantial amount. And I said, "Okay." So we went out on the stretch of road, and they had a starter. Like I said, they had a guy with a flag would start the people in the quarter mile race,
Yeah.
and he got up there and revving his engine and all snarky and everything. Like, "Man, that's an ugly car." I said, "Yeah, I know. Let's just see how ugly it is." And And he got off, and he was burning rubber and everything, and I pedaled along a little bit, got about 100 yards down the road where I was in like second gear. 'Cause I
Yeah.
wanted to do it start in first gear, you just burn rubber. So I
Yeah.
got into second gear, and I hit that accelerator, and that thing, I swear, leaped into the air.
Yeah.
And it was like in nothing. I was going 100 miles an hour. And I
Dang.
just passed that guy. He'd burning rubber, and I passed him, and I beat him by probably 3 or 4 car lengths.
Wow.
Humiliated. And
Dang.
and so we all pulled over to the side of the road, and I got my $20, and he said, "What do you got in there?" And I said, "It's a police interceptor. I'm sorry.
He didn't know.
This has got this it's got a 3 I think a 352, I think is what it had in it, but it had that big carburetor on it. So it
Yeah.
probably produced 300 horsepower easy. And it
Easy.
just was a screamer. And of course, at one time it had been a police car, but that had all been painted over with spray paint. You couldn't tell it was ever a police car. You didn't have back then they would mount a little bubble, what they call a bubble gum machine on top of the car, and that was the only thing that distinguished them, other than it might have police on the side or something. But now they got them all painted all fancy and have dial 911 and all this kind of stuff on, and they didn't have all that back then.
They got
It
the
was
backseat
pretty
page.
plain, and the bubble was taken off the
Okay.
top, and there was just a hole there where a wire went through. We had caulked that up a long time. You couldn't tell it was a
Mhm.
ex-police car.
Did your dad buy you that car?
No, I traded for that.
Oh.
I've traded a '53 Chevy for it. My first car was a Studebaker, and I
Mhm.
kept it for about a year, and I traded it for a '53 Chevy, and I painted it flat black and
Oh,
it didn't have a front bumper. So I put a 2 by 10 piece of wood up in the front for the bumper. And there was another story about that. Is I would just I would that was it was an ugly piece of junk, really. And
yeah,
but it was pretty nasty looking in a way, because it's all flat black. I painted it flat black with spray paint with spray cans,
yeah.
and put that bumper on the front. And I was driving down through Springdale one day, down in downtown, just minding my own business, and this guy opened his door right in front of me. I mean, like I was like 20 feet away from him. Was no slamming on the brake, no nothing. And I took his freaking door off. And his door went sliding down the road in front of me. I went, oops. That old wooden bumper
What?
just sheared that door right off, man.
Right off. I was like,
I think it chipped my
"Hey."
wood. I think I complained about, "That chipped my wood. How dare you?"
Take out the door and you're like,
Oh, yeah. We
"It's
had
on
we
my
had a good
door."
time. Yeah, that was my old '56. That's the last I had that car when I went into the, Navy,
Oh,
and,
wow.
I left it with dad, and I said, "Go ahead and sell it, get what you can for it."
Mhm.
Yeah, and, another thing that was kind of interesting thing in Northwest Arkansas was there was a town about 30 miles east of Springdale called Eureka Springs, and there was a road. This is back in the '60s, and it was a single lane highway that ran through the mountains over to Eureka Springs. And I mean, it was like hairpin turns, climbing, going downhill, uphill. It was
Yep.
it was really a very interesting road.
Still
And
there.
there was a bunch of guys whose were their one goal in life was to beat each other to Eureka Springs. They would get in their Fords and Chevys and Pontiacs, and they would go as fast as they could to Eureka Springs. And there would be somebody on the other end of Eureka Springs, and they would time him when he crossed into Eureka Springs. There was a guy there that would time him, say, okay, he got here at like 9:37 and 30 seconds. And then they would have another guy that was in Springdale that would be watching his end, and then they would take the time and collate it, and whoever got the fastest time would, I don't know what they would, I don't know. These are crazy guys. Yeah,
Yeah.
there was a couple of cars of these racers that were down. You drive Eureka Springs and you look down in the woods on
And
the
see
downhill side. There'd be a car down there wrapped around a tree. And that's one of those crazy men that didn't make the corner. And I remember one time I was going to Eureka Springs, and they'd race both ways. They'd either race from Eureka or from Springdale.
oh my
And I
gosh.
was going to Eureka Springs for whatever reason. And I
Yeah.
got up in the mountains there somewhere, and this Pontiac came the other way. And he was going about 100 miles an hour, and the guy was
Wow.
wearing, and this is a feature. The guy was wearing a helmet.
Wow.
I said, "Oh yeah, that's really going to help if you go off this cliff over here, at 100 miles an hour. Your helmet will save your life."
Oh my
But
gosh.
I'll never forget that, because back then, it was, the helmets were kind of basic, and this is some kind of just, I don't know, just a real basic helmet. Didn't have any face guard on it or anything. Just a strap under the chin. Just an old fashioned motorcycle helmet. And this
Can
guy,
can you
this guy was
like
in there
that?
just both hands on the wheel, doing 100 miles an hour. Boom! And I said, "Man, that Pontiac is fast, and he's heading for Springdale."
Oh my
Yeah,
gosh.
that road to Eureka Springs was really treacherous. At one time I was a chicken catcher for Tyson's. Tyson's had chicken houses all over Arkansas,
Uh,
and they would send trucks out with cages on them, and they would fill the cages up with chickens from these chicken houses. And so I was a catcher. I could catch 18 chickens. That was a coop full. So I could fill a coop all by myself with 18 chickens, and that was all done at night, because chickens during the day were crazy. So at night they would change out the light bulbs in the chicken house with red light bulbs, and
yeah.
chickens couldn't see red. So you go in there and they'd all just be sleeping, and you could grab them. You reach in and grab them by the leg,
Mhm.
and so she'd have to drag some along the ground to get
Yeah.
the last ones. But I get like 10 in one hand and 8 in the other hand and fill up a coop. And yeah, and we were out one day, and we were outside Eureka Springs, and we went into a chicken house, and we'd cleaned out the chicken house, and the truck was heading back in. Well, for some reason I was in the truck. I don't remember why I was in the truck, because all the other chicken catchers were in this pickup, and they were going back to their cars in Springdale to go home. But somehow I ended up in the chicken truck,
Huh.
and we were going up this hill, and the driver said, "I want you to open your door and stand on the running board."
What?
Okay. "Why is that?" And he said, "Well, you see how slow we're going up this hill? If the engine stalls, we're going to start rolling backwards, and the brakes won't hold. This truck is like 20,000 pounds of chickens
Uh,
on board, and the brakes won't hold it going backwards,
oh my
and
gosh.
barely will hold it going forward. But going backwards, it's all brakes. You can't use the engine, I guess, to brake. I don't know. I don't know anything about that type of truck, but it was an old beater anyway. So I believed him. So I opened my door and I got out, stood on running board. He says, "It's still going." He's down in first gear, just barely chugging along. And he says, "I think we're going to make it. I think we're going to make it. You won't have to jump." I said, "That's good. I don't want to
Yeah.
be jumping." And
Yeah.
and so we finally made the crested the hill and started down the other side. And that, but I still remember that standing on the running board, hoping that engine never stalled because we're gonna be dead men, whatever. Oh
Good
yeah,
chickens.
it was basic. It was back in those days, man. I'm telling you, it was basic stuff. We had they had about 3 or 4 big chicken company producers that it was Tyson's and George's and Jones or not Jones, Hudson's, yeah, Hudson's, and they were all in competition with each other. Had
Mhm.
chicken house all over the place, and it was dog eat dog there, and it was no, they didn't have a lot of luxury, so they were just using what they had. It
Bare
was pretty
minimum.
basic, yeah,
Jeez.
and I catching them chickens.
That
Yeah,
is that is wild. Way back when trucking was, like, really primitive. It's crazy to hear these stories 'cause some of these good old boys will come out and they'll tell you crazy stories, and my husband's been driving since he was 21 years old. So he's known a lot of, like, some really primitive trucking even in his day,
yeah.
but I mean, that's almost that's wild, like, to me, like, I can't even imagine that, like, "We're standing out on the running board, we might die," like,
Oh,
I
yeah,
funny because let me tell you
I was always talking about, well, what if I jump out? It's rolling backwards, and I jump out, and that front tire gonna roll right over me, and I said,
yeah,
"Yeah,
the roller
I don't
coaster, yeah, the roller
know."
coaster, just
I would have really, I guess if it would have started, I would have really did a mighty leap.
mighty leap of
Yeah,
faith, but
but then you have to consider too that you're right on the edge of, there's drop offs on both sides.
yeah,
So if I would have leaped too far, I'd have went off the side of this hill and rolling down the hill, and I'd been
oh,
down there
yeah,
with those old junk cars.
yeah,
Yeah,
oh,
no, yeah, it was something else,
the road to
something
Eureka
else.
still very windy and still has some pretty intense hairpin turns and
Yep.
switchbacks, and it's it's pretty crazy. I definitely would not take a semi truck down there as a trucker.
Yeah, you wouldn't want to be racing on that, now, would you?
No, no, I'm good.
Yeah, like those
I
crazy guys
I'm good.
racing the Eureka.
But, I mean, nowadays, they do drifting. Those are, like, the newer, smaller Japanese cars and BMWs, they can drift around those corners, so I'm sure they've done that to Eureka. I would
Oh, yeah.
not doubt it.
You're
That's
probably still
crazy.
doing it. You're
They
probably still
probably
racing the Eureka. I
still
wouldn't be
do.
surprised.
They
Yeah,
probably still do.
yeah,
Crazy.
yeah, it was quite the deal. Yeah, looking back in those days, I don't know. I remember one time we were over this little town called Tawny Town, which is out, west of Springdale,
Yep,
and, we were back in outside of Tawny Town, and this guy had a '56 Pontiac with a big old engine in it. And
mhm,
he was out just running around. He said, "You wanna go for a ride?" And I said, "Oh, yeah." So he got jumped in there, and we took off down the road, and we were on this, like, a secondary road. The Fartwell was the main road,
yep.
and we were off on another secondary road. And he was just, I mean, he was hammering this Pontiac. He was going, I don't know how fast. And we come around a corner, and there's a stop sign. I mean, right there, like 100 feet away. And you could tell he went, his eyes got big. And he slams on the brakes, and the old Pontiac broke loose and started sliding sideways, and we slid through the stop sign. Well, that would have been too bad, except there was a truck, a semi, right there. I mean, and we slid in front of that semi. I bet he was only 25 feet away,
Woo!
30 feet away. and we were going sideways when we went through the stop sign. We were sideways. In other words, we were pointing. The front of the car was pointing up the road, and so we slid in front of the semi, and I was on the passenger side. I looked over at this truck, and it was like right there. I mean, and the trucker, I'm sure I couldn't see him because of
Ah,
headlights at night. And I couldn't see his face, but I'll bet he was anxious. And we slid right in front of that and ended up, and we went over and we bounced into the ditch on the other side
oh,
where this road, because it was a crossroad. So we slid across on the other side and bounced down and got down in the ditch a little bit, but he was able to get out, and it was a shallow ditch. And but I'm telling you what, I had to go home, change my pants.
yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
that was crazy. That was crazy. Yeah, and but that's just kind of the way things were back then. It was like uh, the biggest, baddest cars. That's one that got the girls. And so everybody was trying to get the biggest, baddest car so they could get the girls. And 'cause the girls like to ride in those fast cars, except my old Ford. That Ford Intercept, I never got a girl.
Dang it!
No woman wanted to get in that. That's the ugliest thing I ever seen in my life. And going,
I
sorry,
am not getting in that
it's
car.
fast. It's fast, but it's ugly. Yeah.
Oh, your poor car.
So,
That's
mm,
fun. Those
but
fun.
yeah, those back then Pontiacs they were pretty fast. They were in if you had the right engine, they were, even the Chevys and Fords and everything were pretty good too.
Mhm.
But it was right in the middle. I mean, if you were going out to California back in those days, you would have been in, the real heavy duty car culture. And
Yeah.
up in Michigan, there was a couple of streets that in Detroit that they would cruise. And LA, it was Sunset Boulevard. They cruised Sunset Boulevard, and I'm talking bumper to bumper cars with kids in them.
Which is
So
wild.
yeah,
That's
it was crazy. And then in Arkansas, we didn't have a Sunset Boulevard, but we had the Jan Lynn and the AQ drive-ins. We cruised them bad boys. Yeah.
I
No,
love it.
and the bowling alley. You gotta cruise bowling alley. What there was nothing, you used to go park at the bowling alley. There's no way to cruise,
I know.
so
I just park there and go inside. Like,
yeah.
record
It's
my day,
probably
but
still there.
it
I bet
is.
that bowling alley's
It
still
is.
there.
It is.
Yeah, see there? Yeah, so
Yep. The last time I actually lived in Arkansas, I went there for a birthday party uh with my with my best friend. It was her son's
yeah.
birthday party. So yeah. Yeah, it's still there hanging out. So it's a drive-in bar.
Wow.
And a lot of the buildings that you used to hang out in when you were younger, they're still there. They're
Yeah.
still there. So
Yeah, the last time I was in Springdale, I remember that the restaurant where I worked as a dishwasher, and I think we related that earlier about the hitting the guy with a ladle. Anyway, um, it was
it's
still there, but it's an insurance company. The building was still there, but it was an insurance agency. Yeah, so probably still had grease in the back,
yeah,
on the
probably.
grill.
It
That
smells
was
like
that was
grease in
that was
there
a
when it's hot
that was a
outside.
greasy spoon. That was called the Star Restaurant
The Star
back in
Restaurant.
the day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a couple buildings that I wanna look up and be like, "Do you remember this? Do you remember that?" Like, I'll get to it eventually. I get around to it. So,
Yeah.
well, we're gonna cut it short here today. Mom my mom wants to go to Costco, so we're gonna send them on their way. So this is gonna be a little bit of a shorter episode, but we love the stories that we get to tell here on this podcast, and we hope that you all enjoyed it this week. And please be safe out there on the roads. There are still crazy drivers, even to this day. But please like, subscribe, share, comment, share with your friends and your family, and we will see you next week.